In 27th of August 1960, my great-grandfather went to götaälv, his favorite spot, seeing the ships sail by and the seagulls screech. It was just a regular day like any other until everything changed, and I just made up shit. Hello! I am the name of...
Fy fasen! Vad i himmelska rikets namn
Nej,
är
men,
detta? Mitt barn som är på besök från framtiden.
Well, what do you want then, boy?
There we go. Much better. Hello! I am the name of Sable, your great-grandson, and you are getting uncovered. Please do not resist. At the country of Sweden, in its region of Göteborg och Borås, on the parish of Västra Frölunda, a part of Långeberg district, in the farm of Långeberg Bockegård. There, in 25th of May 1908, a child was born, and in 11th of August 1908, I baptize you in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Welcome, Jonas Carlsson, one of my greats. He has also been named Carlsson with a C and Carlsson with one less S, and his nickname was Begge. Bo is the oldest son and first of 5 children to coxswain Ivar Conrad August Carlsson and wife Olga Louisa Henning. The family moved from Västra Frölunda to Masshugg, Göteborg in 9th of January 1912, reaching property 11 on Majornas District 4, also called Göteborg District 23, at the street of Blasgatan 4 in 25th of January. The property is on the edge of a cliff looking over the beautiful coast of götaälv. Too bad it's being blown up in 1917 for railroads. The residents were all warned ahead of time, and with the lack of housing, were generously allowed to stay for as long as possible. They then moved from Masshugg to Vasa, Göteborg in 23rd of January 1917, reaching property Sporen 2 at Complex 5 on Långdala District, or Göteborg District 9, at the street of Victoriagatan 3. A 2-story apartment with 2 beautiful rooms each. One has a kitchen with electricity, gas, and plenty of sunlight. The family most likely experienced a civil unrest during this time, inspired by a Russian revolution called berating, or the Great Rebellion in English, during May of 1917. The family moved from Vasa to Cardio 1 Göteborg in 6th of July 1921, reaching property 38 on Majornas District 2 or Göteborg District 21 at the street of Karl Johansgatan 47A and B. During this time, his extended family on his dad's side became quite influential. His aunt Hilma married Gustav Ullman, the brother of Stockholm historian Johan Ullman, and later the actor Fru Mandal. His other aunt, Valborg, married Oscar Wilhelm Blomgren Oden, a gold medalist in pole jumping. His third aunt, called Stella, a progressive woman for a time, and financially support the family when she married the son of a rich sawmill owner named Albert Johnson, and later Erik. She paid for Bo Jonas' studies when he studied during autumn of 1927 and spring of 1928 at högre latin läroverket fourth wing. Then correspondent Jonas Carlsson from Karl Johan Parish did bands with Marga, Britta, Helena Bergman from Masshug Parish in 29th of March, 5th of April, and 12th of April 1931, and they married in 25th of April 1931 with both consent. The same day that the West Bromwich Albino defeated Birmingham 2-1 in the FA Cup Finals. 2 months after their marriage, their third child was born at Göteborg's Barnbördshuis. The new family moved into separate parts of property 38 in 1932. They later moved from Karl Johan to Oscar Fredrik Göteborg in 18th of January 1933, reaching property Paradiset 1 at Complex 31 on Uddevalla District or Göteborg District 14 at the connecting streets of Kompassgatan 12 and Paradisgatan 22. Then they moved from Oscar Fredrik to Karl Johan Göteborg, reaching property Klaraborg 5 at Complex 18 on Majornas District 3 or Göteborg District 22, facing the streets of Standardgatan 9 in 14 December 1933. Between 1933 and 1946, within Karl Johan, they moved to property Backen 8 at Complex 38 on Majornas District 3 or Göteborg District 22, facing the streets of Vangatan 59 and Söderlingsgatan 2-4. They then moved to property Seagulls form at Complex 7 on Majornas District 2 or Göteborg District 21, facing the roads of Djurgårdsgatan 11 and Karl Johansgatan 9. When Nazi territory replaced the Danish and Norwegian ones in 1940, came an urgency to enlist more men into the military, and one of those men was Jonas, who served for 270 days from 20th of September 1943 until 17th June 1944. He didn't really do much, just helping with transport of resources in the cities and being formally trained with firearms and hand grenades.
Come on. This is not possible. Look at it! What are you doing?
Yes, Chief.
You fat, useless sack of fucking Yankee-danky doodle shite. Leave it! Leave it! Just fucking leave it! You're gonna blow your face, you fucking donkey!
There are rumors that Bo was not a good husband to Marga. We know he left his uneducated wife and 5 kids on Karl Johan going to Sankt Olai, Norrköping, Östergötland, Sweden in 22nd of October 1946 and reaching property 2-8 on Höjden Complex or Norrköping Dals Complex 3, facing the streets of Västra Sankt Persgatan 21, Västra Nygatan 16A, and Bryggaregatan 2-4. Bo became office manager, moved from Sankt Olai, Norrköping to Östra Eneby, Norrköping, Östergötland in 13 November 1946. Reaching property 1 at Rosenträdet Complex on Haga District, facing the street of Appelgata 10. He had a sexual relationship with a woman named Iris Andersson during August of 1948 because Iris gave birth to Ingun Elisabeth in 19th of February 1949 at Norrköping Lasaret, who was born with birth defects that gave her Down syndrome, heart problems, and lung problems. This revealed infidelity most likely made Marga request the court for divorce, which met the criteria in paragraph 3 of chapter 11 of giftermålsbalken. One of the stipulations was that they had to have lived separately for a year minimum. They filed their divorce in 4th of April 1949. At least that's what I think it reads. Please correct me in the comments. And then they legally became divorced in 11th of April 1949. Then he, office manager Jonas Carlsson, married seamstress Iris Marmor Elisabeth Andersson on Östra Eneby in 4th of June 1949. Not long after the marriage, Ingun got pneumonia and died in Norrköping Hospital in 2nd of December 1949, being only 9 months old, and her cremated ashes will be buried on Norrköping Crematorium Cemetery in 20th December of that year. Many years later, her mother, Iris Marmor Elisabeth Carlsson, died in 27th of August 1967, being cremated and also buried together with her daughter in Norrköping Crematorium in 13 September 1967. I had to dedicate a part of this to England. I knew a rumor about Jonas having a child with Iris, who did not live long. It was not going to be a small bit, a joke on Boo's expense, like with his relationship with Marga, because I only knew that rumor. I knew nothing, but now I learned a fraction about this half-great-grand-aunt of mine. Boo later married Marta Disick, I don't speak Polish, in 25th of February 1970. Then Bo Jonas died on Ystad, Skåne, Sverige in 16 December 1996, age 89, and then buried in 26th of February 1997. Stay forever roused by unending hangnails, you piece of fucking. His third wife, Martha Carlsson, died on Ystad in 8th of June 2008, and later buried in 11th of July in the same year. What happened to Marga? Well, her being a single mom took a big toll on her mentally and physically, and thus she died on Masshug in 25th of September 1971, and later buried in 1st of October in the same year. I want to end this segment by saying that there are claims that Bo was a Swedish Nazi.
What? Way?
Who could speak fluent German and traveled to Nazi Germany with his job as a correspondent, and agreed with many of its ideologies. I do have photos of him going to post-World War Germany with his children. Okay, so it's ancestry time. Bo's ancestry is Swedish.
Any?
Nope.
By the purity of my roots, I must have some Uppsala. Right?
Nope. Bye. Bo's heritage is down to these 4 regions: Göteborg och Borås, Älvsborg, Skaraborg, and Halland, while most of his roots end at about 1730s to 1770s, or after 5 generations. Some branches, mainly those from Halland, can go as far back as mid-1600s, or 9 generations. Bo's paternal lineage can be traced back to Sven Olofsson, from scholarly, with the haplogroup being R/PAGES000105, which split off from the rest of the paternal lineage at around 1 BCE and seems to be associated with Scandinavian remains, while his maternal lineage can only be traced back to Anna Britta Andersdotter, who claims to be born on Marbeck with unknown haplogroup. Unsurprisingly, his ancestors consist of commoners, with exceptions for one line of traders from Uddevalla and another line of higher-born from Friestad/Torpa. His first name, Bo, does not seem to have a family origin, and instead seems to just have come from a recent trend of naming kids outside of familiar names. However, his second first name can be traced back to his maternal great-grandfather, shoemaker Jonas Carlsson. Obviously, Göteborg city has a very big influence on his ancestry. Here's a graph showing the years when his direct ancestors lived in Göteborg and other cities like Borås, Uddevalla, and Norrköping. Let's go back to the first point, beginning in 1764, showing Borås in purple, which reflect the higher-born family Danner, and in 1765 we see Uddevalla in red, which shows the trader family Lundgren, but then it peels off as ancestors die and as a descendant leaves, after which there is a huge gap until 1812, where we see a little bit Uddevalla from Lundgren, and then we start to see other lineages here in Borås. The instances of Göteborg in 1820 and 21 are the descendant of Lundgren, and then we just see Borås. Then we see an indication of another branch of a family, single man who appears on Göteborg, and also a single woman on a different branch, but otherwise Borås completely dominates until industrialization changed everything, because in 1863 Göteborg would begin to be a permanent home for Borås ancestors. The numbers quickly increases and reaches its peak in 82 and 83, where 9 out of 12 of Borås ancestors live in Göteborg at the same time. No other point in time have brought so many ancestors to one place, and as time moves on, ancestors die except for one who moves to America. And this is a chart that shows all the names of Borås ancestors, siblings, half-siblings, and even some step-parents. The sources for these names are either from birth records or the earliest iteration of their names. The genders are split due to how naming trends between the sexes were not approached equally in history. Let's start with the earliest generation. Not be confused with the previous graph generations. That one actually does represent Borås ancestry generationally. This one is just an arbitrary split because that generally represents Borås ancestry the best. The colors that represent each name was made by putting the initials into a cipher, turning them into numbers, and putting those numbers into a color hex. And lastly, the percentages beside the year brackets are how many have how many first names. Because in Sweden, we never had really middle names historically. Any additional names to the first name are just an additional first name. Going through a men's side, we can see many typical Swedish names you might have heard of, like Sven, Olof, Lars, or Anders. For hundreds of years, Swedes followed a naming tradition called bunden uppkallelse, where the children had to be named after their grandparents, parents, or uncles/aunts. That tradition started to be loosened up in the late 1700s for men, which you can see with Carl Magnus, born in 1795, the first boy in Bo's family with two names, and names not necessarily from uppkallelsen, and with the passing of time, less boys are born with just a singular name, and even more with unique names. On the woman's side, it's very similar. You can see names such as Britta, Ingrid, Karin, Catharina, and Anna. It's a very similar pattern to the men, except for the fact that women get more in a singular name much earlier, and a lot more names than men later on, like here, Alma Ingeborg Magnhild Alice Minerva. And here is the very last shot, which shows when his direct ancestor was born to the year the parentage to next direct ancestor. And that's the end of the video. This video took so much longer than I ever thought that it would take. I started to work on this on in the beginning of summer. I thought it was just supposed to be a really simple project. It was gonna be really cheaply animated. It was just gonna have mostly records shown and then a few animated scenes. The graphs were not supposed to be that detailed. The animation was not supposed to be that numerous. And the records became a lot more, especially when learning how to use Fusion for the first time. And yet, I don't regret it. Thanks to this video, I learned so much about my great-grandfather. I gained more understanding of Göteborg's structure, and seeing the visualization of my great-grandfather ancestry made everything worth it. I'm not gonna make another video. I am going back to do my genealogy and focusing on that for the next months or year, depending on how. But once I'm done, I might make more. Yes, don't expect really anything new. Thank you for watching.